Hello everybody, I'm Allie and this is Allie G Reads and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing part 3 of my bookshelf tour. This is from these shelves down. There is a separate shelf here, so this is technically the top shelf of this section. This is the one that's always behind me. My dad built all these shelves custom for me, by the way. So I can't tell you where I bought them because I did not. So I'm going to try to go through the books I read as fast as possible so that this video isn't 40 minutes long like my last video. So without further ado, let's get started. I've got a drink ready. I've got my incense burning. It's Saturday. I'm not in the mood to do anything but talk about books. And then once I'm finished talking about these books, I'm going to read books tonight. That's all I want to do. It's way too hot. Thank God it's cold in here. Starting from the bottom up, by the way. I have the first 50 Shades of Grey book here. The other two are in my room because I was planning on doing a series review. This is the only one I've read so far. I'm really struggling with the other one because I really don't like it, but I might finish it and do like a really critical, I want to do a really critical series review, but I'm struggling. So I had planned, like when I laid out the videos I wanted to do for the year, I had planned to do that one for August, but I'm nowhere near done the second book. So August does not seem reasonable anymore. Maybe December. Maybe. I have the Court of Thorn and Roses series by Sarah J. Maas. I have the second, third, and fourth here. The first one's in my room because I might start it. However, I'm not starting it yet. I feel like I'm going to hate these, but they're so popular. So I was thinking about doing another critical series review, but I haven't even started. So this might be an unpopular opinion, but I don't think series should be longer than 3 books. I'm sorry. Same with like TV shows. Like usually by the time they get to season 5, I'm done with the show. Like I'm over it. I want nothing to do with it. Game of Thrones was the last series I watched in full. What does that tell you? Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. I've talked about this in my all-time favorites. This is like a sci-fi comedy, so I don't want to say too much about it. There's more description in that video there, but I do love this book. Contact by Carl Sagan. Carl Sagan is a famous scientist, astronomer. Yes, professor of astronomy. This is his first fiction book, and the movie Contact with Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey was based off of this book. I tried to get into it and I struggled, but I do want to read it, so eventually. I like the cover though, I'm not gonna lie. The black and white with the simple like Tiffany aqua green, I'm into it. I have so I have the first Witcher book here. Oh, this is such a long series too. And then I have the Last Wish. Okay, I'm not entirely sure, so don't quote me on this. I believe the author wrote these first. I think these are like short story prequels, and then this is like this series, because this is number 1. It says number 1 right on the side, but this says the book that inspired the series. So I think from what I understand, the author was writing like short stories and stuff, which became a book, and then he decided to run with a series. I think that's what happened. I have read some of these so far, and I like it. I love the show. The show on Netflix is fucking amazing. I cannot wait for season 2. So I have that. And I've got this at a thrift store, so I don't want to pay full price for the rest of the series. So I'm just going to keep running back to thrift stores. Another Sarah J. Maas book here. Throne of Glass. This is the first in an 8-book series. I tried to read it. I can't get into it yet. So the more I pick up these like series, the more I realize I'm not into young adult. It's not for me. Speaking of young adult, I got rid of my Shadow and Bone trilogy, by the way. I sold it because I really didn't like it. I still have the video where I review that series and I just haven't edited it and uploaded it yet. I've heard that this duology is better. Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. This is like a fantasy heist book. I generally like heists. So, also, I saw an interview with Leigh Bardugo. She did like a BuzzFeed takeover, and she said that she prefers writing duologies. So I feel like this is probably going to be better just because it's 2 books, it's in and out of the series, and you're done. So I do want to read this because I've heard more adults like these than the Shadow and Bone series, so I'm hopeful. A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. This is a YA. I think it's like a graphic novel technically because there are illustrations in it. This is an incredible book. I read it in one sitting. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. The movie was actually pretty good too, but it doesn't capture the same. This made me choke up. This is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful book on grief. And I love this book so much. So I think everybody should read this. This is one of those YA books that is like, it feels like it transcends that genre. The Light Between Oceans. One of the only, so this is, okay. I like love stories if it's not a romance book. This is a fiction, historical fiction actually. They made a movie of it, but there is a love story at the core of this book. And I like this love story. I like the movie too. So yes, I like it a lot. I think it's a really cute historical fiction. I think it was really, really, really good. This is a couple that are on, they're like lighthouse keepers on the coast of Australia, and an infant washes up on shore and they decide to raise the baby, but then they find out that the biological mother has been looking for this baby, but they've been raising her and dealing with that situation. This is a really good book. It's really, really good. It's really good. I have Dear Carrie by Diane Cannon. I kept saying Dylan because of the way it was spelled, but it's Diane Cannon. This was really controversial when it first came out. Diane Cannon was married to Cary Grant. She was really young. Okay. There was quite an age difference between them. I love Cary Grant. Cary Grant is one of my favorite classic actors. He's so good. He has the movie called The Grass is Greener and Arsenic and Old Lace that are 2 of my all-time favorite movies. They're super, super old. But he can play dramas. He's funny. Like, he was just a great actor, in my opinion. However, this had some controversial topics that Diane discussed. I believe he became a father in his 60s for the first time with Diane. They had a daughter together. So there was some, some controversial stuff about drugs and everything, but this was a really interesting memoir. I really liked it, and yeah, I liked it. It's a funny story. This book is actually banned in prisons. This is called the Sociopath Manifesto or the Psychopath Manifesto. Oddly enough, I took this from my ex-boyfriend, who was a psychopath, is a psychopath, I should say. Legitimately, he's a sociopath. He does not feel empathy. As I was going on, like reading this, I realized he like annotated some passages. It's this book, The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. I believe that Jay-Z or Kanye also, I think it's Kanye to be honest, let's be real. It's probably Kanye. I think Kanye recommends this too. This book is like, looks at historical figures and talks about power. And it also gives manipulative techniques and how to recognize if you are being pawned or manipulated, but in turn it also teaches you how to be a master manipulator. I have not finished this because, again, this is my ex's copy and it's too late now. He's not getting it back, so sorry about him. But he had underlined some like sentences that were like kind of concerning to me, so I stopped reading it. I do want to read this one day. It was an interesting read. I like how he looks at historical figures and how they got power and came to power. That was really interesting, but it is banned in prisons, so do with that what you will. The Art of Seduction. I got this in 2013. My receipt's still in the book. Oddly, I had just just started dating my boyfriend at the time when he had that book. How interesting. I might read this. Maybe this will be my nonfiction read for the month. I'm going to put these two psycho books aside. We'll see. Furious Love, Elizabeth Taylor, Richard Burton, and the Marriage of the Century. I love Elizabeth Taylor. She is my idol. Rest in peace to her. It's been 10 years since she passed away. These are a lot of letters that her and Richard Burton had. Their relationship was like so in the public. They were such an iconic couple, and this is a really, really, really good book. She actually married him twice. She's so perfect. I love this woman. And it was really interesting to read this kind of like crazy relationship they had and how much I think they really did love each other, even though there was a lot of like tumultuous stuff. The fights were quite intense. But I do think that they really did love each other. So it was interesting. I will talk about this in, I plan to do a true crime series. So I will talk about this more. I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. This was posthumously published. She really went out of her way to catch the Golden State Killer. She was obsessed with this case. She was a true crime blogger. And she ended up having like so much information that the police didn't even have. HBO did a fabulous documentary about it. I'm not going to say too much more about this search and hunt or whatever. And my dog fucking chewed this copy when he was a puppy. But I will recommend this and go into more detail in a future video. Let's Pretend This Never Happened, a mostly true memoir by Jenny Lawson. She was like, she's called The Bloggess. That's what her blog is called. She got like famous from blogging. This is a lot of her childhood stories. And she also talks very openly about her struggles with depression and mental illness. I will say, I topped the 2 stories. There are 2 stories in here about her family, and I almost peed my pants laughing. They were hilarious. This is a really funny collection of essays about her family. This is such a good memoir. It's so funny, and it's so blunt, and it's so raw, and it's so honest. So I really do like this. I might do a memoir video as well, so that'll probably come up again. Spy Who Loved: The Secrets and Lives of One of Britain's Bravest Wartime Heroines by Claire Mully. I want to do a reread of this. This was about a spy. In June 1952, a woman was found murdered in South Kensington Hotel. She had survived the Second World War only to die tragically young at the hands of an obsessed former lover. Her name was Christine Granville. This book was so interesting, and I love espionage stuff, and it was so nice to read a book about a female spy. I will probably include this in an upcoming video, but I do want to say that this is such a good biography. So good. I do love this, and I will be rereading this. The Accidental Feminist, How Elizabeth Taylor Raised Our Consciousness, and We Were Too Distracted by Her Beauty to Notice. M.G. Lord. This is an excellent feminist book. And again, it talks about Elizabeth Taylor. She was such an amazing human being, and she did so much for LGBTQ rights. She did so much for AIDS funding and research. She raised so much money. She was so passionate about it. She's just an honest to God, and like just the way she was about her body and her sexuality. She was just such an incredible woman, and this was a really good book. I do want to reread this. This was the first like feminist book I got into. I will just like throw that in there. And she's obviously my hero, so there's a reason. One of the best memoirs I've ever read, In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. I tabbed off tons of stuff. This is written in vignettes about her being the victim of domestic violence and emotional abuse at the hands of her partner. This is written in vignettes. It's really interesting. It really goes into really good detail about gaslighting. Honestly, this is just... It was so good. It was so moving. Anybody can relate to this, but it was also really nice that this was written by a lesbian. I thought that this shed light on things that aren't talked about that often. It's just such an incredible book. Everybody should read this. Being Wagner, the story of the most provocative composer who ever lived by Simon Callow. Richard Wagner is a German composer. He's written Flight of the Valkyries is his most famous composition. If I can insert a clip without a copyright in this, I will. I really was interested in this because he was such a provocative person and he was so controversial. And I know that he has anti-Semitic, he is anti-Semitic, I should say. But there wasn't a lot that I could get about him. So I wanted to know more about this person. Sometimes I think it's interesting to understand more about historical figures, whether they're good or bad, just because history tends to repeat itself. So I like to look at things and see signs and behaviors to recognize in other people. Do you know what I mean? I'm not explaining it very well, but I got it on sale. So, and I love classical music, by the way. So I'm really interested to actually get to this. even though he was a real piece of shit. You want to talk about race? Ioma Oluo. I'm so sorry, I'm butchering that. This is a really interesting book. And I know it blew up recently. There's another book I really want called Hood Feminism that I'm super excited to get. Yeah, I just think that this is going to be such an excellent book. So I cannot wait to read this. I will talk more about this in another upcoming book because it's so interesting. Upcoming video. Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Other Lessons from the Crematory by Caitlin Doughty. This is literally like, I'm pretty sure she has a YouTube channel and she answers questions about death and what happens to us after we die and before we get cremated. It's actually kind of funny. So it's super interesting. I'll talk more about it in another upcoming video. I have plans. Bill Maher, the new rules, a funny look at how everybody but me has their head up their ass. I like Bill Maher. A lot of people don't, and I understand why. I like him. There's a lot of things he says that I agree with. There's a lot of things I don't agree with. But New Rule is like a segment that he has on his show Real Time. So these are just kind of like written new rules. The Professor and the Madman, A Tale of Murder, Insanity, and the Making of the Oxford English Dictionary by Simon Winchester. I got this for free. Someone was getting rid of it, so I had to snatch it up. And this is literally about writing the dictionary. Countdown to Zero, Stuxnet and the Launch of the World's First Digital Weapon, Kim Zetter. This is fucking scary. This is a scary book. They made a documentary about it too, which is equally as terrifying. Yeah. I'm just gonna say a computer virus that can be used as a weapon. It almost was. Scary. The Big Short, Inside the Doomsday Machine by Michael Lewis. This is an excellent book. This is one of the best nonfiction books I've ever read. I'm not going to say too much about it because I have plans for it. The movie is equally as fantastic. The movie has a better way of explaining it, I think, in like more layman's terms. So good. About the 2008 financial collapse and the greed and the corruption. This is one of those books that everybody says that everybody should read. How to Win Friends and Influence People. The Only Book You Need to Lead You to Success by Dale Carnegie. I didn't find it helpful. Sex at Dawn. This book's good. How We Mate, Why We Stray, and What It Means for Modern Relationships by Christopher Ryan and Cecilda Jeta. I'm sorry. So these authors took anthropological studies, sociological studies, psychological, archaeological, and anatomy and primatology. Like they took a bunch of evidence from all these scientific backgrounds and compiled it about why humans aren't meant to be monogamous. Super interesting book. Fascinating book. I love this. This is one of the best nonfiction books I've ever read. I have so many mixed emotions about this person. Elon Musk, Tesla, SpaceX, and the Quest for a Fantastic Future by Ashley Vance. Elon Musk I used to really like, and then he just started spewing all these like terrible things. He's interesting, but I think a lot of people give him a lot of credit that he just doesn't deserve. But Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain, Adventures in the Culinary Underbelly. This was huge when it first came out. That Anthony Bourdain wrote about what things are actually like in the restaurant industry. such a good book, such an amazing memoir. I think everybody should read it. It's really eye-opening, and I loved Anthony Bourdain. I thought he was a great person, and I think it's terrible what happened. This was also made into a movie. Truth, The Press, the President, and the Privilege of Power by Mary Mapes. This is what happened when CBS did a story about George W. Bush going AWOL from the National Guard, and all this like terrible shit started happening to them, and they were getting slapped with all these like crazy, or it got really scary. So this was a really interesting book to read, really interesting, and the movie was done well too. This is a super controversial book. A lot of people say it's not true, and that this guy is just lying or whatever. But if this is true, which some of it is believable, if this is true, it's terrifying. Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins. This is a story written by this guy, and he is an economic hitman, allegedly. Highly paid professionals who cheat countries around the globe out of trillions of dollars. Their tools include fraudulent financial reports, rigged elections, payoffs, extortion, sex, and murder. This is honestly like terrifying. Again, if it's true, it's terrifying. If it's not, it's a damn good story. I have some Kristen Hanna books on this shelf. Night Road, like a family drama. Kristen Hanna does family dramas really well. I haven't read this one yet. Same with Flyaway. Pretty sure Flyaway is the sequel to it's the sequel to Firefly Lane. I also got True Colors from the thrift store. It's like a sister story. Honestly, I've heard that these like older books aren't that good. I did not like Firefly Lane. I'm sorry. I know it's getting a second season on Netflix. I did not like this. And I thought I would, because I normally like best friend things, and I have a childhood best friend. I've had her. We've been friends since we were 5 years old, so I love like best friend stories, and like especially ones that span years. And we're older now. I'm not gonna say how old I am. We're older now, so it's been many years, and I really thought I'd like it, but I didn't. But I liked this one, Winter Garden. Winter Garden is also a sister story and a mother's daughter story. And it's historical fiction. I think from Winter Garden on, her books get better, because Nightingale and Great Alone were fabulous. But this is a story about a mother, and these daughters are learning her past in Russia during the war. Great book. I got 2 of these books from Book Outlet. The Miniaturist by Jessie Burton. This is historical fiction based on a true story, as far as I understand. Yes, in Amsterdam. She makes miniaturists, I believe. The Muse. As you can see, I got it for $5.99. This takes place in the 60s. Something about being like a muse for an artist. This book is super interesting. Hysteria by Jessica Gross. I think I included this in my best of 2020. If not, I should have. This is a super interesting book about, this goes under disaster woman millennial fiction. This is a woman who is like going on like drunken binges, and she's like having a lot of casual sex, but ends up feeling like regrets. And then one time she goes to her favorite bar, and she believes that the bartender is Sigmund Freud. So she starts discussing things with Sigmund Freud. The Witch Elm by Tana French. I got this at a thrift store. I've heard Tana French is a fabulous author. This is a mystery, I believe, about a body being found in a witch elm. I think it's supposed to be like a take on that old unsolved crime, Who Put Bella in the Witch Elm, I think. But I tried to get into it a couple times and it's super wordy and I just haven't gotten into it, although I do want to attempt to try it again. I DNF'd this this year. Elizabeth Kostova, The Swan Thieves. It's about like a man who goes mute and shoots up like a painting in a museum, and this psychiatrist is trying to figure out why he did it and starts uncovering letters from the past about this painting in particular. But I got bored. I almost put my plant out. I have a bunch of historical fiction here by the same author. So these are all Kate Morton books. House at Riverton, which is the first one, takes place in 1924. This takes place in 1913. The Forgotten Garden, I'm sorry. Distant Hours, 1941. And these are all about like family secrets and like sisters stories, by the way. I don't know when this one takes place. The Secret Keeper. And then The Clockmaker's Daughter. Out of all of these, I tried to read House at Riverton because it was the first, and I was trying to read them in like order, even though they're not a series. But I've heard that The Secret Keeper and The Forgotten Garden are the best, so I might just like shift to them. Nosferatu by Joe Hill. Joe Hill is Stephen King's son. And this is about, it's very Stephen King-esque, as in she travels to like another dimension. And I think it's like almost like a vampire, like a modern vampire story, because Nosferatu was like an old vampire movie. Anyway, yes, they made a show about this. I never finished this book. It was good, but in the vein of his father, very wordy. This collection at Indigo for $5. Edgar Allan Poe Complete Tales and Poems. I have read quite a few in here. There are still some that I want to read, but thankfully a lot of his are like shorter stories. As you can tell, it's a hefty one. So I kind of just, whenever I'm in the mood to read Poe, I kind of just pick it up and put it down. The one I've read so far, The Terror, I will talk about this in an upcoming horror video I have planned. This is, Dan Simmons has a really interesting thing of taking an actual historical event and throwing a horrific spin to it. So this is like historical fiction horror. This is actually about the shipwreck, The Terror. In 1845, the Franklin expedition. Yeah, it was terrible the way they died, but he threw in like something was hunting them in the Arctic instead. Spin. So good. And then I also have Carrion Comfort. This is also like a historical fiction, like literally like decades long, about these like people with like psychic abilities to do evil things. Starts in World War II, I'll just say that. Drood. I am most looking forward to this. When Charles Dickens died, he was writing a story about a character named Drood. And The Mystery of Edwin Drood, sorry. And he ended up dying before it was completed, but there's like a mystery surrounding his death. So Dan Simmons wrote this horror novel about this Drood character and Charles Dickens and the death. But this is told by Wilkie Collins, the horror author who wrote The Woman in White. So I'm really looking forward to this, but it's a hefty one. So this is on my summer reading list because I think the premise sounds incredible. Silent Companions, I talked about this gothic horror. It's an excellent gothic horror in my horror reads. I've talked about this book more times than I can count. Confessions by Kane Minato. This is translated from Japanese. This is an excellent revenge story. It's so good. One of the best revenge stories I've ever read. I recommended this in my horror video, I'm pretty sure. Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. This is like an exorcism that happens in this family, and it ends up being filmed by like a documentary crew for TV. Super, super interesting. Yeah, check it out. The ending is super ambiguous, by the way, and it really upsets people. Literally losing daylight here. The Loney I recommended in that horror book video. This is by Andrew Michael Hurley. It is British horror in the vein of the old Village of the Damned almost. Super good. And this is Devil's Day. This is his second book. Kind of in the same like old school folktale horror feel. So I'll get to this eventually. American Psycho, classic horror novel. I like the movie better, but this had some horrific scenes that weren't in the movie. Like graphic, gross. The Devil All the Time by Donald Ray Pollock. One of the best books of 2020 that I read. The Netflix adaptation was equally as amazing. This just follows a bunch of people in this small town, and all these like tragic, horrible events are happening, and all these people end up being tied together. Really, really excellent book. Talented Mr. Ripley. Haven't read it. I have some John le Carre here. I have Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy and The Little Drummer Girl. This was made into a miniseries. This was made into a movie. John le Carre is an excellent espionage author. He owns that genre. So if you're into espionage, you have to read his. They're very slow burn though. "13th Tale" by Diane Setterfield. I've heard that this has a really good twist ending. I've tried to read it 3 times and can't get into it. I talked about this in my wrap-up, The Manual of Detection, my May wrap-up. Endless Night by Richard Lehman. I might talk about this in like a Halloween video coming up. I read it this year and forgot to include it in my wrap-up, so I will have to wrap it up. This is fucked up. Disgusting. 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 I lied. This ended up being way longer than I had anticipated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this video into 2. So this will be Bookshelf Tour Part 3, Part 1. And I'm going to upload Part 2 shortly after, just in case you don't want to do it all in one sitting. You know. So please like, comment, and subscribe, and check out Part 2 coming up soon. I don't have an exit. Bye.